Welcome to the Books, Beards, Booze podcast, where we talk books, drink booze, and have beards.
All right. As always, I'm Bob Tells by Bob.
I'm the ass of the podcast, Derek.
Greetings, children. I am creative consultant Tanya.
Creepy
The
consultant
fuck
Tanya.
was that?
I don't know. I was trying something different.
No,
I'm
okay, I'm
okay.
not morally opposed to it.
It was
but
funny.
I was kind of out of nowhere.
It's funny that you'd mentioned that because as I was sitting here, I was like, almost spur of the moment, going to come up with a new nickname.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't want to be the ass anymore. But no, I'm still
Hey,
the ass.
it's okay. You don't have to be an ass.
I think our nicknames are locked in until January. You can be thinking
You don't
between,
tell me what
you
to
can
do.
be
I'm
thinking
grown. I
between
do
now
what
and
I want.
January. January, if you want a new nickname, that'd be a good time.
New
to roll
year,
it
new
out.
me.
Yeah,
No,
New Year,
I
new-
like ass the podcast. It
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Mine's just cumbersome, like me. So it's fine.
And
Seven-
awkward, like you.
like Seven Marry Me.
What?
Cumbersome.
Oh,
Seven Marry Three
yeah.
sings the song Cumbersome. All right.
That was
Little-
a deep cut, Bob.
Ooh, a
All right.
little
I
bit
have
of
No one
become cumbersome.
No one ever
Oh.
remembers who actually does that song, and if they do,
I
they
do.
always get it wrong.
So I got a bit of news.
God, great! Now I want to hear that song. As soon as this is over, Lady Friend's playing it.
Yeah, fair. So Tor.com reports that Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea cycle is getting an adaptation.
Hey.
What
So
kind of adaptation?
okay, so
The
Deadline
televisions?
has reported that A24 and producer Jennifer Fox will be adapting the iconic series for TV. And unlike previous adaptations,
Right.
this one actually has Ursula K. Le Guin's blessing. She's actually on board this time.
Cool.
Okay.
So previously, it was made, Studio Ghibli made an animated movie. of
What?
it. Have you not seen it? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, they did Earthsea. And Sci-Fi did a miniseries.
Yeah, I remember the miniseries.
Well, so the authors criticized both adaptations for whitewashing the books because Earthsea is very much is one of the first big name fantasies to really have like a multi-ethnic cast of characters. And she added that the anime was preachy and morally confused, and the miniseries was a generic McMagic movie with a meaningless plot based on sex and violence.
Love it.
So,
McMagic.
McMagic. I just liked that.
That's great.
So I just finished The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French.
How was that?
Okay, here's the premise, guys. Imagine Sons of Anarchy,
Yes.
but fantasy
Okay.
with half orcs riding actual giant hogs.
Yo.
It's fucking great.
Yo.
See, so I'm at this weird place where I've heard Bob describe two books to me that sound completely ridiculous, but then
awesome?
he says that they're great. One of them was the one that I refuse to this day to read.
The Plum Seg.
No, the
No,
fucking.
that's a good one.
Oh, we split this one, or whatever the fuck it was.
Oh, Grunts?
Grunts refused
Oh,
to. Yeah.
yeah.
And you're like, it's awesome, and I tried it. And I was
That,
like,
that book
"Ugh."
hasn't aged as well as I
And
would have
then,
liked.
and then I fucking. But then the other one was Kings of the Wild, so it's like.
Yeah.
Really good though.
Well, so this one, so it's at face value, it's a ridiculous premise, but the world building that he's done completely justifies this, and it's very much very Sons of Anarchy-esque.
I just started
Like,
rewatching that.
It's really good. So I think he won this. This book was a self-published book that he did the science fiction fantasy blog off thing that Mark Lawrence does every year.
Right.
And I think he won it. And because of that, he ended up getting a book deal with Orbit. So Orbit puts it out. It's great. Ton of fun. If you like the idea of fantasy motorcycles, but they're pigs. Big pigs. One of the only complaints I have with this book is they call them barbarians. They call their pigs barbarian. Oh, that's a barbarian. And I just kind of...
There's so many
Don't.
things that are already called barbarians that I think that if I read
feel
that,
like-
it would just kind of get me low-key.
Well, it just...
I feel like
I feel like he was trying to make a joke that I'm not getting.
it's the fact that certain motorcycles are called champions.
Yeah.
So
I don't
it's
know.
like
I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, so finished that.
making
It
that
was
up?
it was great. So this is our monthly short reads, and I'll give a little background on our two short reads.
Tanya, what are you reading? Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I listen to a book and I read a book, so I'm normally in two books.
Yeah.
So recently I read Sphere.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Was that your first Michael Crichton?
Yeah.
Ooh, you're in
Loved
for
it. Okay.
Oh god, they're
Loved
all
it.
so good.
But similar movie that I enjoyed, Contact. So
Okay.
I have the book for Contact, Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
So reading, just
Yeah.
started reading that. So excited. Really loved the movie with Jodie Foster and
Heard the
old
end
Matthew
really
McConaughey.
fell off the.
The movie, the ending was a little odd, but
Yeah.
it was
Well,
good.
I mean,
it was good.
I like it because it's like, ooh, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to get into the book and see how
It's different.
How it's different
Yeah.
from the movie, because this is one of the movies that I like.
Yeah.
And
It's a good thing
so,
you watched it first.
You need to.
Yeah,
Now that
so-
you've read a Michael Crichton, all his books, while being very different in tone, like in stuff matter,
Yeah.
they're all that like very sciencey, researchy based kind
Yeah,
of.
I enjoyed-
Oh
I
man,
enjoyed it.
Jurassic Park, Congo. Fucking
Yeah.
great.
So but yeah, I'm reading Contact, listening to Mr. Bourne, number
Yep.
2, Well of Ascension. Probably by the time this drops, I'll be donezo with it.
Done-ish,
But
if not done.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm still reading the same thing,
Yep.
guys.
Okay.
Short reads.
Oof.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go over them real quick. So the first one, they're both on our website. Go to our website under the short reads tabs. If you haven't read them for this month, go give them a read a doodle. But they are the Mirror Dialogues by Jason S. Ridler. Is the first one. Jason Ridler is a historian and writer. He created the Brimstone Files for Nightshade Books and has published over 60 short stories and teaches creative writing for such clients as Google, Cloudflare, and others. A former punk rock musician and cemetery groundskeeper, he lives in North Carolina. He has 3 other stories published by Beneath Ceaseless Skies. So if you liked this one, you can go down to the bottom and it's got links to like other ones that he's written. The other one is Elegy of a Lanthornist by M.E. Bronstein. M.E. Bronstein is a PhD student in comparative literature based in Northern California. Her work is forthcoming or has been published in Gallery of Curiosities, Metamorphosis, and Literary Orphans, and she sometimes goes by Molly Etta. She's also a graduate of the Clarion UCSD and the Odyssey Writing Workshop. So, these stories, they share a common
Mirrors.
no, fuck,
Well,
what narrative?
theme?
No, narrative device. What do you call that? Very framing
Frame
device.
narrative?
They are both of them are
Found documents.
found
documents,
documents
right, yeah.
being analyzed by
Was that like
academics.
that month?
I don't know.
Or
I don't know, but it was.
wasn't on
Ve-
purpose. It just
I have to
Alright.
think that it had to be at least somewhat on purpose.
Yeah.
But
I
okay.
just meant that you.
Oh yeah, no,
So I don't
no,
know,
no,
do they
'cause
only
this
put up
was
two?
this was the most recent issue of Beneath.
Oh, okay.
Now
Yeah, they
Ceaseless
probably
Skies.
did. on
Yeah,
purpose,
like
yeah.
it was. So yes, okay. I read both of these stories the first time. Like I didn't read them when I picked them. I just
Right.
like, oh, this.
Yep, this
we've-
is the latest
we-
episode. This is what we're
This is the
doing.
latest episode. This is what we're doing. Never had bad stories. Gonna roll with it. And the
I
first
would
time,
say these aren't bad.
so the first time I read them, I was like, oh, I don't like these. But I reread them today for recording, and I like them so much more on the second read through, especially Elegy for a Lanthornist.
That one was my least favorite.
Okay,
So, yeah.
let's start with the mirror dialogues.
Yeah.
The premise is these folks have found these excerpts from basically the dialogues is what it's called, but it's where a woman is teaching her charge statecraft, basically how to become a leader, and does it by starting to take her out into the city. Let's first talk about the girl whose name I can in no way remember because it's really long and doesn't really get
Thessa.
Thessa. Okay.
It was like low-key irrelevant, I
I
think.
think
Yeah, I was literally writing a note at the end of the story.
Yeah.
And had to go look up her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's never said. Because, like, for one thing, for a dialogue, nothing is ever
who is
in
talking
quotes.
for the most
Yeah.
part. It's like
Yeah, nothing is ever in
who
quotes,
this?
which is
No,
like,
there are
you-
quotes, but it doesn't say like and so said
Said
this.
right.
Yeah,
I
no,
have to figure
that's-
out.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, it was like it wasn't that difficult to figure
Yeah.
out. But there was brief moments there where it was like, okay, who? Oh, okay. And I don't like that. Anytime that happens, it's taking you out of the story.
Yeah.
It ruins immersion. So, okay, but so the Thessa, autistic.
Yeah, that was one of the points I was going to make.
Yeah, I think
I wasn't sure. Like
Oh, because counting on her hands.
Well, she's all right. So she's somewhere on the
spectrum.
somewhere on the spectrum,
Right.
and the way she's always she has a
Stemming.
she has a physical tick,
Stemming, yeah.
and she also
they make special reference of the fact that there might be I think I want to say at one point they mentioned that there's an issue with her, and then they also are talking about the fact that she can't not notice all of the things.
right the way
All right, here it is. She taps her fingers on her
Yeah.
thumbs as if she were a child of 5 summers, counting sums, or one of the touched who were lost in the spasms of the wayfarer's kiss. And that line, I was like, are they talking about like autism tics? Because that's kind of what I picked up too.
So here's what. All right, so she can't. The way that everything with her is calculations.
Right.
She views everything as a calculation.
Some
Like
Rain
when
Man
she's
stuff.
watching the torturers do their work, for her everything is a calculation, and she talks about how the torturers can only see a little bit of it, but she can see everything that they're doing.
Right.
And just the way that she can go to a place, she can instantly count how many people. Like, oh, there 50 people died. This one died this way. This one died this way. I noticed the buttons that he was wearing, his father's
Exactly.
buttons from
Right.
the corpse,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like so, she's
I liked that. That was neat.
yeah. No, that was
that was
very
super
cool.
neat.
That was very cool. I did really enjoy that. And there was something else about that I was going to say. But y'all can say something.
Can I
Yeah.
tell you my
Yeah.
quote? I actually have a couple
ahead.
of notes on this. I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you what they all say verbatim because they were what I was writing when
Yeah.
I was very caffeinated as I was reading these.
Bet.
And in relation to her counting and all that stuff, my exact quote was, "This is some Mentat shit."
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. So remember, the whole thing is like she's taking her into the city so that she can see that the city is not beautiful, like that there is. But the girl never sees that.
Because she sees everything.
She sees everything, but also like just it seems like she has problems relating to people, and I think that her internal value system is different because she's
Oh, I didn't quite get that.
well, not that like it's a bad thing, but like for her, there is no good or bad. It's all part of the calculation. It all like, and when she becomes the queen of the city, it's not the courtroom; it's a permutation room because
Right.
she's always doing calculations. Like,
Well, yeah, and I guess like that supports you in this is we've got I don't know any of their fucking names. The leader person who's with the charge.
yeah,
Yeah.
the mirror.
Yeah. And
I don't think that's actually her title, but
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
You mean the mirror scribe?
The mirror scribe. There
Okay.
we go.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, remember what you're going to say. Because my quote, I don't know what a mirror scribe is, but it sounds dope as fuck.
It does.
Yeah.
Continue.
But just talking about like the charge is like, wow, it's not what I thought it would be at night. And it's like, tell me what you hear. It's like, I thought it would be quiet. Why? Well, they all sleep. Well, not everyone sleeps equally. Some sleep in the day. Some are awake in the night. Like creatures? Well, people are creatures. Some people are creatures. Others are people. And that line is from our finger counter person. It's like,
Yeah.
well, some are
That's
creatures
yeah.
and others are people. I was like, ooh, harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I didn't take it as her, like, not being able to relate or taking everything into calculation so much as I felt like it was more of, since she notices literally everything, she notices that, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but, like, there's a lot of good all the time, everywhere.
Well, the way I took it was like, is 2 good or bad? Is 3 good or bad?
Mm-hmm.
They're not. They're just numbers. They're just things in the calculation. If you're adding 2 plus 3, it's not, well, 2 is bad, but 3 is good, and it makes 5. my interpretation of it was, for her, there isn't good or bad. It's everything is just an integer in the equation to get us to where we want to be. So she, that was kind of my reading on it.
Yeah. I didn't walk away from the story initially thinking that she was devoid of personal attachment to people and things.
I got some of what you were saying, but I chose to read it differently because if it had been that way, I would have hated this story because of the philosophical bent that it had.
Yeah.
So I chose not to read it.
I guess
that
like
way.
with her saying like, no, this is still beautiful. Like I still think the city is beautiful. I didn't think about that as she can't see things as being good or bad, but I walked away. It was more of like, there is, even bad things can be beautiful sometimes.
And you got to keep in mind that she's not saying beautiful. She's saying joy.
She finds joy in things.
Finds joy in everything. Because like when she went out and was seeing just people milling about and stuff like that before the riots, she's specifically saying that they're asking like all the bad stuff, pointing out all the bad things, and she's like, well, there's still way more joy here than there was back at everything else.
Yeah, that's why she doesn't go count bodies anymore, because like she'd rather be out with the people. There's more joy out here.
Yeah,
exactly.
She doesn't go watch the torturers anymore. Mm-hmm. She'd rather go watch the city.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But those were my famous quotes.
But what about the Mirror Scribe's treason that we get, or we don't get?
Well, I don't think she didn't actually do. My reading on it was she was a scapegoat that Thessa Thessa got loose and went missing, and then there's all this unrest in the city, and they're blaming the Mirror Scribe is a scapegoat. They're going to blame her for everything.
Yeah, she's the governess, basically.
But then Thessa, there's gap in the record, so Thessa comes back, takes over, and releases.
My reading is that if you read the conversation they had right before that, she's basically leading Thessa to realize that, I'm guessing it's supposed to be her father or the person in charge currently, is a bad person that's doing a shit job.
That's what right.
Yeah, so she's like, okay, so now I realize that it's my job to fix the fuck-ups to make this city as joyful as I can.
And I do that by killing my dad.
And I do that by, if not necessarily killing, usurping him.
Yeah.
So that was my interpretation. It was
Same.
that she had decided to take it on herself to fix everything, and that caused her to have to flee. And the Mirror Scribe, baller fucking term, got fucking caught.
Yeah.
That was the way
that's
well, I definitely agree with that, but it was definitely like the Mirror Scribe, I don't think actively.
I don't think she did it.
It was
I don't
a very
know necessarily
passive sort of rebellion kind of deal.
Because I think even then, I think she was pointing these things out. I don't think she was expecting her to do it then.
Yeah, I think she was pointing this out for
so
when you do become the Lord of the city.
Don't let it be this way.
Yeah, don't let it be this way. And I think my favorite part is when the Thessa sits there and is like, oh, well, clearly something's up because our crops are fine in the city. Or
does that make sense?
Yeah, nature doesn't bend to the laws of man.
She basically has done the calculations like, okay, well, it seems to me that blah, 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 lays out the conspiracy like that. And that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Loved that.
Generally just didn't... I don't like the way the story is laid out. Either one of these.
Yeah, you don't like this framing.
Incredibly dry. Didn't like it. This first one was more palatable because it was more of a narrative, I guess. And the second story,
okay.
Well, hold on.
We're not there yet.
But I say all that, but like, this is a cool premise. I don't want any more of this. None of it.
I liked it for exactly what it was. If it had gone on too much, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But I liked what it was. I liked that there was just piecings missing.
Yeah, you got to cut out of the dumb shit you didn't probably want to see anyway.
Well, there was still some stuff that might have been cool. Like if Thessa like legit turned instead of just like leaving and leading a rebellion, that could have been something interesting. But I didn't.
But now it can be either one.
Yeah, it's not the point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah. No, I like this framing narrative, because this is something that is somewhat fairly common in like Lovecraftian horror,
Yeah.
and whatnot. That whole like found documents.
Well, this
stuff
was
like that,
basically all of what House of Leaves is, and you read that.
yes, yeah. House
That's
of
gonna,
Leaves
we're
is
going to talk
one-
about that in the next
yeah
section.
So
I think.
I liked it. I didn't mind the missing parts. There's one thing that and it's a problem that I have to deal with myself. If you're writing, all right, for example, okay, so I recently finished. Did I tell you, Derek, that I finished Wider Shade of Pale?
You didn't tell me, but I saw you mention it
Yeah.
somewhere
So,
on social media.
for those who don't know, I had this idea for a story. I didn't know what it was going to be, a story, novella, novel, or whatever. And I've always called it a Wider Shade of Pale. No reason, just always called it that. And
people have been telling him it's his best story idea.
Yeah, I've been working on it for
years.
years. And basically what would happen is I would, for a long time, I had written like 1,002
chunk of
words,
it,
and it got lost. And I was like, fuck this, I hate rewriting. So I was like, I'm done with this. I'm never going to fucking... Well, I found those missing words.
Hey!
And so... But for years now, like, I'd pick it up, write a few hundred words, maybe 1,000 words, put it down for months, and just like... So, but with that, it's very much like the story takes place over days, and there's lots of time jumps, you don't need to see the minutia of every day in the story. So, but in stories I've written like that, what sometimes happens is like the first segments are very long, and then every segment gets like a little shorter, and sometimes that works well, sometimes it's trash. And I've read stories like that that's like they front load so much of it in the first part of the story kind of deal, so you get these big huge chunks, and
kind
then
of like it the other way more.
and
Like
then you get these little snippets towards the end, and I can see that sometimes it's for pacing, and when it's done well for pacing, I totally get it, but sometimes it's trash. This one, every segment was a believable length. Like they're
Right.
all roughly equivalent lengths. Like, and I appreciated that for this
yeah.
story, and for both stories. I appreciate that for both stories, because both stories were all the segments were relatably believable lengths. Not like, oh, this first section is 2,000 words, and then next section is 1,500 words, and then it's like 300 words, 300 words, 400 words, 300 words. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was just a little observation of mine.
Yeah, so I liked this one. It was good. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
not my favorite story we've
no.
read, but it was.
serviceable.
Yeah,
And
well,
I actually kind of like the found. Done correctly, I like this type of story, but I also know I can't read like a full book of it, or this was the right amount. This wasn't a very long short story. It was only like 3,500 words. It was reasonable, and so it didn't get me annoyed.
the reading it the second time made it so much better. Like I literally the first time I read it, I didn't like it. Probably because like all the constant immersion breaking of like, oh, who said, okay, I'm back. And just like, I also was reading it kind of late at night, and I don't think I paid as close. Like I didn't quite fully pick up on the spectrumness the first read through, but the second read through, I was like, all right, I know what's happening. Was able to pay a lot more attention, really go in on it. And it's now I legitimately really like this story.
Point of order. That's why I reread stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, the way I read stuff anyways, I pour over the specifics at all times. But the second time is almost always better. Like, I liked Jade City the first read. I loved it the second time.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you're not so paying attention. You know what's going to happen, so you can focus on what the craft is.
When we talked about in the previous episode, the fight episode, where you talked about like the fight with Kelsier and the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
It was so stressful.
Yeah.
for
The
you.
second time.
Yeah.
Well, the second time, if you go to read it a second time, you know how that fight plays out,
You
so
get to
you'll be able to
see-
appreciate it more without the stress.
Exactly.
Life's too short to reread books.
It depends.
I have too many books I want to read to sit and reread.
I used
the
to
same thing I already
reread
read.
all the time.
No.
All the time. And I don't
Can't relate
reread
to
books
that.
anymore.
I have way too many books to read, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
reread
The
anything.
way I look at it is rereading a book is not rereading a book. Because it's not the same experience the second time.
Yeah,
Or the
that's
third.
fair.
I
So-
also don't like rewatching movies or TV shows, really.
Unless it's Lake Placid, because that's the best movie ever.
Ooh,
And you can
or
watch that
Lone Star
forever.
State of Mine.
Ooh, I could watch Lone Star State of Mine endlessly.
Or a cinematic masterpiece like
Seven
Big Trouble
Samurai.
Little Time.
Oh,
Big
fuck
Trouble
that
Little
movie.
China.
Fuck
What
that
are you
movie.
talking about?
I've never watched Big Trouble in Little China, but
spoiler.
Seven Samurai
don't
is
watch
the
it.
best.
If you watch Big Trouble in Little China
It's-
now, not having seen it when
Yeah.
it came out, like in the
It's-
80s, you're gonna hate it because that's
Well,
so many of those 80s movies. If you
Like
didn't watch them,
Labyrinth?
yeah, like if you didn't watch Labyrinth growing up, you're gonna hate it when you're
Fraggle
grown.
Rock. None of that.
Well, now you're just being.
oh, whoa,
Just
no,
crazy.
yeah, exactly like that. Yeah,
My finger hurts.
Is it still numb?
Yeah.
you're probably having a stroke. It's fine. Let's move on. What's
All right, so the
second
next story is Elegy of a Lanthornist by M.E. Bronstein. So, this story definitely benefited from a second read-through. Definitely, like, it went... I actively disliked this story the first time. The second read-through went...
It was palatable.
Well, no, even, like, look, second read-through, I have some serious issues with it. But second read-through, it's pretty good. I definitely see why they included it. The problem... All right, so let's talk about the first problem. The footnotes is a problem.
Let's... Before we even do that, my take...
Yeah.
Really well done. Really unenjoyable to read. Very crafted very well. Was not enjoyable.
You can definitely tell, Emmy Bronstein is is a PhD student in comparative literature, and you can tell like this reads much more academically than the other story. Like this is very much like reading academia. And
which isn't necessarily a bad thing,
No.
except for the fact that
I don't read that shit for leisure.
yeah.
Except I 100%
Yeah.
don't
Just
read that
did.
for leisure.
Well,
No, I read it for work.
That's fair.
I mean,
That's fair.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I read this for work. I don't read shit with footnotes for pleasure. Period.
I do.
I-
House of Leaves, baby. All about
So
the
we're gonna have
footnotes.
to talk about that. But there's some books do really great with footnotes.
Oh yeah, there's some do.
For example, The Big Book of Basketball by Bill Simmons. I think that's the name of it. He has footnotes everywhere, but it's like referencing
Audience,
jokes. that
you
he's-
cannot see me cutting him some
But no,
skeptical ass
there
look.
are-
But it's
there
a
are some-
it's a whole book
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
history of the game, and he intersperses it with footnotes with funny fucking jokes about
That's one thing.
Yeah.
That's
like
one
what's
thing.
going
and
on
there-
because he doesn't want to disrupt the flow of
Yeah.
what he's
No,
saying.
yeah, I
And
but
there are some fantasy books that do footnotes.
I don't know if I've ever seen one.
I've read a few, but here's the thing: when they do it, it is typical. Like this is a short story with I think 18 footnotes.
Yes.
Okay, which is very
Excessive.
very fitting for an academic work. That makes perfect sense. Academic work, you've got tons
Every
of
fucking
fucking
paragraph.
you got tons of fucking footnotes, but it adds to the realism of the piece. I get it,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: I'm reading it on my phone.
Yeah.
Yes, they're hyperlinked. I can click that and it'll take me to there, but then I have to scroll back up and find my place every
Yeah.
fucking time. So when I tried to read it, when I read it the first time, I was trying to read the footnotes as I went.
Yeah.
Which is what I was doing.
Nope.
But I stopped
Not-
halfway through and I was just
not-
like,
yeah.
no.
Oh, I
Not-
didn't even finish the footnotes.
Yeah, not
I
the
got
way
to
do
like
it.
number 4 and I was like, no, I literally hate footnotes. If
So-
it's in a footnote, it's not important. That's why it's in a footnote. If it was important, it'd be in the paragraph.
It does kind of add a little bit of context, but the story, you could have told this story without any of the footnotes.
Yeah.
You could have. It would have been just fine. Because I mean, you basically would have had a story more similar to
The first one.
the mirror dialogues.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I will say I do like the overarching premise of
Yeah.
the second story about like the glass trapping memories and you
Yes.
kind of using that as a way to look into the past.
Yeah.
That was really
That's
fucking
amazingly cool. The problem
Very
is it takes
interesting.
so long for you to figure out where the story is going.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
And then, because y'all were in the other room talking as I'm reading, I'm like, holy shit, she's in a fucking lamp.
Yeah.
yeah.
The actual
told you to
story is
finish it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about the way this is like
Written.
literarily written.
Not
I
enjoyable.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate the way it's framed and written. But the story itself, like, glass holding memories, and maybe she's had this fancy glass the whole time, but maybe she doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
the glass that she has isn't the actual real thing.
That's one of the footnotes.
Yeah.
One of the footnotes is like, no, she thinks, but no, it's not. But
yeah. But I mean, that was kind of cool. And then, you know...
So at the end, you're left like...
What the fuck happened?
Well, that's the thing.
What did you do?
Because, like, to me, the importance of the footnotes... And I may have missed something somewhere along the way. I may have missed something. But to me, the only footnote that needed to be left was the one that was like, hey, yeah, she thinks this is, like, she thinks that this is this particular piece of glass, but it's not. Because, like, we know where that piece of glass is.
Yeah.
So that, to me, throws the entire story.
Was she the poet and did she kill somebody? What is happening?
To me,
what is this?
To me, it's...
I loved it.
To me, it throws a question in: has she just lost her mind?
Yeah.
And is making all this stuff up, or is this real? Was this the Firefly lady trapped in a lamp?
Well,
that footnote is what really opens it up to.
Ooh.
Is she crazy? Did this really happen?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they
cool.
phrased at the very beginning of the story saying that.
No, here's the difference.
But it's the first piece of evidence that shows that.
Well, no, here's to me the difference is it's a fantasy story that we're reading, and the scholars are saying, oh, well, you know, of course, scholar, la la la, like, yeah, okay. Clearly, this can't be the case, you know. But when you're reading it, like those of us who've read a lot of fantasy, when you read that, the scholar is always saying that can't be the case, but really it is.
So
the
this
case.
is the first time where they're like, but no, really,
yeah, this is an actual piece of evidence that, oh well, because you're going into this naturally assuming that what she is saying is what actually happened.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, you know. She's talking about like this breeze comes in, like she's in the library. This breeze comes in, is blowing her stuff. She's having to hold her stuff down, and she's got this piece of glass floating in front of her.
And everyone else is just cool reading their books.
No one notices. Not one person notices, which is another point where it's like, okay, well maybe she is crazy. Maybe this didn't happen. I choose to believe that it did because
it makes it cooler.
Because it's fantasy.
Because it's fantasy, and I like that. But really and truly, like the glass of the Lanthornist or whatever, like that's such a cool concept. Like I prefer the world building on this story so much more than the other. The other one, the world building was whatever. Like
I just liked a couple of the words that they chose.
Yeah, there was
mirror scribe.
Mirror scribe.
Yeah, there was fundamentally not much world building. There was some societal world building, but you could have set that in any fucking fantasy world interchangeably.
Yeah.
This one has a very specific and place, like the ruins of this society is very important to the story. Like the actual world building is really the coolest part of the story, and it's very important to it. And
I liked the depth that the second story felt like it gave. I felt like I really liked the glass holding memories. It's a way to, and they're like, no one would have ever used glasses to help them see because lenses were for looking in the past. It would it would change the way you see things. It would not help you see the right now. It helps you see the past. Why the fuck would you put that on your face? And as someone with glasses, I'm like, I like it.
Yeah.
But, it was super cumbersome reading it. I did not like reading that shit when I was in college.
Yeah.
For research papers and shit. I still don't like it now.
Well, so for me, the problem, when I read it the first time, the problem was I had no idea where the story was going.
Yeah.
Okay?
That was my next question was, at what point did you see where it was going? Because I did pretty early on.
For me, like, the fact that
admittedly, I was taking a jump.
She's going to track down the Firefly lady in a land, like, from what, like, I was probably 3/4 of the way through before it actually like really starts to kind of go like, oh, when she's the point I kind of saw maybe where we were going is when she's going from like place to place following the bees kind of deal. At that, everything before that is just dry academia.
Right.
Yeah.
This is okay. Now we're hinting at an adventure, but even then, if I remember correctly, right after that, it kind of goes back into dry academia for a while. And so the second read through, at that point, I knew where we were going with this story, and you can pick up a lot more stuff that fills that in. But if you don't, like, there should have been more, like, what I would have liked, I think would have not saved the story, but like would have improved the story is if at the beginning, they talk about like, well, she went missing. Go more in depth about the nature of her missing,
of her disappearance.
Build up the mystery of that disappearance, and then I'm much more invested in the story.
Yeah.
To me, like I was not invested in I pretty
Who the fuck's a Firefly lady? Why do I care that she's not here?
I pretty quickly kind of the fact that she had gone missing pretty quickly slipped from my mind because it didn't really drive that home. Like,
Right.
they've really driven that home. Like, all right, everything you're reading, this person is missing. Like, under weird, mysterious circumstances.
Like, the beginning of every true crime podcast episode, they're going to be like, hey, we're investigating this case. She's gone missing. She's been gone this many days. Here's what we're doing.
Yeah, and so I think that would have got me more invested to where I'm paying closer attention, yada, yada, yada. So reading it the second time was like, okay, well now, all right. And it really, the story was so much better just from knowing where I was going, and that made all the difference. Like, it's still, parts of it were very dry and academic, but like even the dry academic parts, you're being able to pick out little bits that just really add to it at that point. Because you know what to look for at that point. So
I appreciate this because you're making most of my arguments for rereading things back to me, and it's refreshing. But so at what point did you realize this dude probably killed that lady, or like had something to do with it?
Oh, when she was like, "Oh, what have you done?"
Because I was on that track way before that. I was like, but that's admittedly part of that's because of my history of literature. It's like if you,
I didn't think that he. I didn't think that he had
there
killed
was something
her,
shady.
but when he's talking about like how he left the flowers, like the glass flowers, it's like, and that they were just, she never picked them up. It's like, oh, we got a creeper on our hands.
Yeah,
exactly.
I definitely got the, ooh boy, you creepy.
Yeah.
Soon as they started talking about sonnets and stuff like that, like, I am a student of literature enough to know that if there's a person writing extensively on a subject, and it's the subject that doesn't know that they love them or something like that,
oh, you're gonna get murdered.
It's not a good thing. It's a source of this some bitch.
But really and truly.
obsessed.
But here's the thing, though, he didn't murder her.
No,
I mean, an argument could be made that he saved her.
But it was basically rape, though. She straight up told him,
"No, I don't want my soul.
Don't save my soul. I don't want to live with this."
Right.
And he did it anyway because he was just so madly in love with her.
Don't save her. She
that part was
saved.
Like, oh fuck.
And then she's trapped in this thing forever.
Yeah. And that whole like, oh god.
Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.
Yeah. I really like the poisoned honey. The references to that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Anything about the poisoned honey, that was very flowery, pun intended. I really enjoyed that.
I think I like that imagery because, again, it's kind of applicable.
Yeah.
It's applicable to real life and to now. It's like those things. It's like traps you that is bad for you. Like you want the thing. It's sweet, but it's gonna kill you because it's poisoned. Those kind of things. I like it.
All in all, if this amazingly cool concept of a story, I just didn't particularly care for how it was executed. Like, I just tell it as a regular story, not as this art academic framing. And I think this would be like a 10 of 10 story.
My
as
thing
it
is, if you're going to
like
use that style of storytelling, those footnotes needed to be far more relevant than they were.
Yes. And, and that's the thing, like, maybe I'm just not smart enough to have got it. But I read every footnote, and the only one to me that was like, ooh, boys.
Yeah, that fake glass.
Was the glass one.
Maybe that wasn't actually... we think it academically was not actual memory glass or whatever the fuck it was called.
Like that part was like, okay.
Oh shit.
But
Yeah.
the rest of them, like, I may have missed something, but the rest of the footnotes to me didn't add anything to the story.
Yeah.
For real. Other than the only thing that added to the story was the patina of realness. Like, this is more believable as an academic manuscript.
So, here's a question for the gallery. Do you think that
we're the gallery? You're the gallery.
Well, I'm listening to the other people who are listening, talking to them as well. We have gals and gals and gaz.
Yeah.
Gals and guys. So, do you think that this academic framing, the way that both of these stories were constructive, like, is it possible that our authors did not have enough of the idea in place to connect the blurb? So, like, fuck it, let me just take it as, like, text excerpts. Because
is that a possibility? 100% that's a possibility.
Because, I mean, like, I'm not an author. I don't write things because I have an idea and it's like 3 inches long. I can't make a 7-inch long story.
Yeah. Well, that's
and what if I just like chunk, throw it together as like, oh, this is just an academic paper.
Well, so that going back to what I was talking about earlier about how like you wind up with stories that are real fat at the beginning and then they quickly narrow down.
Yeah.
I think that is 100% what happens. People have an idea of a story, they get into it, and they realize they don't have enough meat on that bone.
Yeah, and so they just say, fuck it, I'm done.
And so like they had the initial core idea, they had the meat, and then it's like, oh, piss, I don't know how
to get this to do
the
what
rest
I
of
wanted
it. And so that's how you wind up with these short blurbs that don't live up to the initial scene at the start. And again, this is when it's done poorly. When it's done well, it's clearly the people are doing it for pacing reasons.
Yeah.
Also, this kind of thing seems to happen a lot more with mystery or like horror.
Yes.
So as the story goes on, sometimes people aren't as sane, so there's shorter things. So that'll help.
Yeah.
But also, sometimes you just can't say as much close to the end because it doesn't make sense for you to do.
Well, you also don't want like if it's a mystery, you don't want to give too much information.
Yeah.
Like you want the people to feel rewarded. Like, oh, okay, I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah.
But if you spell it out for them, they're not going to feel that reward at the end. They're going to be like, oh, well, fuck, obviously, duh, they telegraphed that, So, but yeah, no.
But yeah, like I would like more of this second story. Just this memory glass thing is super cool. But part of me wonders, like, can our author even do that? Was that not a possibility to give us like an actual literary version of this? Instead we're going to get this academic paper. And I don't mean that to come off as shitty sounding as it does. You do whatever you want to do. No, I just don't like the way
I don't think that. I see what you're saying. You're saying, did this author not have the material to? Yeah. So they had to. No, I don't think that's the case. I think because like.
Oh, you said this was a PhD literary student.
Yeah, no. But no, my thing is...
They probably had hard dick the whole time they were writing this. Like,
well, I think,
eat these footnotes, bitch.
No, like, all the parts
That's cute that you think they enjoy footnotes.
Well, no, like, all the parts that we really don't like about this are all stuff that add to the realism of it. Like, this very much reads like an academic piece, like all those footnotes and everything.
Which it's supposed to read like that.
And the structure. And, like, that's just not really what we really want. Yeah. But, like, I don't think she didn't write it this way because she didn't have the idea. She wrote it
because this was the idea.
This was the idea. She wants to write an academic fantasy piece. Okay. And at least that's what I think.
Yeah,
I said, I could appreciate it. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
trust me.
Honestly, of the two, I'll be thinking about this story far longer than I will the other one because it's a much more intriguing concept.
I still don't understand what the fuck the mirror was in the first one.
Yeah, I don't
get it. You're a mirror scribe, and what
I think the mirror
is our monarch supposed to mirror the world, or the world supposed to mirror our monarch?
Well,
I don't get it.
The city is supposed to mirror the monarch, and so I think the mirror scribe is supposed to write a book that is called The Mirror of this person, kind of deal.
I don't know.
I think a mirror scribe is a person that's training the statesman to lead moving forward. So they're scribing this mirror because they're supposed to mirror. So they're creating the next state that's going to exist. So that's the thing they're creating. I don't even know that they're necessarily creating a book.
Well, I think because something that I read in the first part of it led me to believe that there are actual, like, the mirrors are actual books, I think. But yeah, I don't know. So this first story, liked it more. Second story is probably going to linger with me much longer. Neither one were 2 read-throughs in. Neither one was a bad story. Just not, the second story was just not to my personal taste.
It's just not what I want when I go to sit down to read a fantasy short story.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm reading a college paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And that's
that
all it
was
boils down to.
that was the
Yeah.
issue, and I was going to mention because of the way of what was the House of Leaves or whatever. Yeah, that I will never read that because this proved to me is like I was super frustrated. It's like, man, I'm trying to get into this story,
No, but you don't.
I don't want to be jumping around.
Well, no, that's the thing. When you
It's
read
taking me out of it.
House of Leaves, you don't. Some people recommend that you don't read
the other
footnotes.
parts
No, that you don't read
until-
the footnotes as they come up. Now,
Right.
I did. I read another guy that's like, no, stop and read every footnote. But that's the thing. Like, some of these footnotes are stories.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
know.
not like the footnotes are not necessarily like these kind of footnotes. Like, some of the footnotes are just like this guy talking about his life and his descent into maybe madness, maybe the reality of things. Da, 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 da.
Well, either
So,
way, specifically
yeah.
on this one, I never got to get into the story until I gave up on the footnotes.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like the footnotes ruined immersion.
Yeah, because up to the point of probably that scene where she like with the wind that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I actively really did not like this. Like I was considering not finishing it, and then I was like, I'm not. No, it's pretty. short.
It's got a good payoff at the end. It's just such a slog to get there. You know,
Like-
so academic.
There wasn't enough spice to get to the like they
The
should.
spice only starts like any hint of spice really doesn't
Two-thirds
start.
of the way
Yeah,
in.
2/3 in.
I enjoy reading. However, I really struggle when it comes to remembering names, remembering dates, remembering shit like that. And so for both of these stories to be nothing but names and dates and historical events of things I can't reference, it was incredibly difficult for me to read these, not only because I was like spite reading in a rush, but just the way these are laid out, it's very difficult for me to have any frame of reference because it's just hard for me to read stories like
And
that.
see, it's different. I feel like between the first two because like in the first one. There were words and stuff like that there was no frame of reference for, like the mirror scribe and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that just intrigued me. The other things that I couldn't put a connection to in the other one just pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Well, no, I can tell you why. Because in the first one, the words are there, but there's no explanation.
Mm-hmm.
In the second one, there's 18 footnotes of explanation on
That
shit
still
you don't care about. But then the stuff you do care about, there's no footnote of explanation.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Because in that world, everyone
There-
would know what those things are.
True, and
Yeah.
it makes sense. But yeah.
But again, really
Right.
well done. Just wasn't enjoyable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the perfect way to say it. Incredible, like arguably the better written of the two.
Yeah.
The second one, yeah.
But just not
Not fun.
not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Fucking intriguing as all hell.
Yeah.
Enjoyable.
Love this memory glass.
All right, Rienko.
Ooh.
Ooh.
All right, so did y'all
They're
know
really pumping stuff out these
they're
days.
getting into the self-driving car market? Yeah.
I need a self-driving car so bad. I was trying to read these short stories while I was driving over down
Relatable.
on the interstate.
Relatable.
And so I was like, oh, I just need a self-driving car right now because
Yeah.
it's 3:00 in the afternoon on a
Well, so
Saturday
get
and I'm
this.
going 80.
So get this. It's the new from Rienko. It's the Driver Face 5000.
Okay.
This modular system is compatible with most modern cars.
Mm-hmm.
Just interface it with your car's computer system, slip the steering device over the wheel, and you're good to go. Let the driver face use its proprietary mapping system to take you to the nearest Rienko service station for some premium leaded gas, or to your local Rienko store for the best products around.
So
got-
Will it take me anywhere other than the Rienko places?
Why would you want to go to
But why
anywhere
would
other
you
than-
want to know? But why would you want to go anywhere but a Rienko location?
Because I was headed here to do podcasts.
But we could record them in a friendly Rienko coffee
Shop. Yeah.
coffee shop.
I kind of feel like I'd get like radioactive.
Well,
That's
they do.
part of
they,
the fun. You'd
well, they do
glow.
have that radioactive vodka.
Yeah.
So,
They do. I could get my superpowers.
ooh, if you okay, let's
We're-
end,
like,
let's
yeah,
end there
before we start
before we
sp-
have a disappointing conversation about what Tanya's superpowers are.
Oh,
Yep.
did you see me wistfully gazing off into middle distance or thinking about what my superpower would be?
I would talk to
Oh,
cats.
strong
Move on.
odor.
Okay.
Wow, her face is frozen in dreamy glee. All right. Well, in the coming month, as the delightful red drapes that match your delightful
Coming
red
month?
carpet. Coming month, week? Oh,
You
man.
said the coming month. No, we're recording every week. We're not doing a monthly podcast. This is a weekly podcast.
In the coming
Sir?
week, in the coming week, as the delightful red drapes
did we get demoted?
that match your delightful red carpet, and we're not just talking about Bob here. I hope that the pleasing colors invoke hunger and desire.
That doesn't invoke hunger or desire,
And
Bob.
may the blessing of the beard be upon you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Books, Beards, Booze. Our co-hosts are Bob, Derek, and Tanya. Our producer is Bob. For more information, visit our website, booksbeardsbooze.com. Follow our social media at Tales by Bob. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate, subscribe, and share. Okay, bye.